back to my YouTube channel. I am so excited that you found your way back to a second video. This means a lot to me, and if this is your first time on my channel, welcome. Thank you. If you do not know already, my name is Doing Sola and this is my little channel. So I know that I look kind of crazy. Okay, not crazy, but I look kind of weird today. I do not have my face done, and trust me, this is leading up to a point. There's a reason for this. So today, in today's video, we're just going to be doing a little Bible story and makeup session, and it basically is where I'll be doing my makeup and telling you a story from the Bible. So if I am going to rate my makeup skills, to be fair, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the least and 10 being the highest, I think that I am a solid 4. Yes. So if you're here for makeup skills, you might not be getting a lot of that, but if you're here for just good story, good banter, good gist, godly inspiration, pull a chair and just relax, because you're going to get a lot of that today. So without further ado, let's just get into the video. So today I am going to be talking about the story of Israelites, right? So I was thinking to myself, should I start the makeup now while I'm giving this intro? I think I should. Let's start the makeup. So disclaimer, a lot of these products I rarely use, so I might not know what goes where or what I'm supposed to be using. I might be using the wrong brushes for whatever. So I basically just try to have fun with my makeup. So makeup artists, don't come for me, please. So today we're going to be looking at the story of the Israelites, their journey out of Egypt. That's from Exodus 3. So I have some notes. I made some notes just so I don't forget certain key facts on the timeline. So I might look at that from time to time. But apart from that, yeah. So I was thinking to myself, we're in the middle of a pandemic, right? And what better time to tell the story of the Israelites' journey out of Egypt and the mini plague that they had to endure to do that. So this story is in the book of Exodus. So from Exodus 3, I say so a lot. Exodus 3 till 6, basically, or 7. I might be wrong. So we start this story from Exodus 3, where Moses is walking a sheep. At this point, I don't know if you might not know the backstory of Moses, but Moses had a phase in his life where he used to be a prince in Egypt, and then he committed a murder and he had to flee. So Moses is here now in no man's land, and he has become a shepherd basically. So he is just walking a sheep, doing his thing, when he notices a burning bush. So the interesting thing about this bush was that the bush was on fire, but it wasn't burning. So basically it was on fire, but the thing wasn't getting consumed. So I'm sorry, disclaimer, I might look down a lot in this video because my mirror is actually down. I don't quite have my setup great yet. So as I was saying, Moses is walking and he sees this bush that is burning but not getting consumed. So natural curiosity, he stops by to see what this is about, right? Why is this bush on fire but not getting consumed? So when he stops by, a voice comes out of the bush and says to him, Moses, this land you're on is holy ground, so take off your shoes. And Moses basically started to tremble, which is normal, right? So Moses is trembling and he couldn't even look up because he realized in that moment that this has to be God. God is present in this place. So Moses is trembling, and then God basically just says to him, so the Israelites, I have heard their cries and I have looked down on them and their sufferings, and I have decided to deliver them, and I want you to be my spokesperson. So the backstory is the Israelites were in Egypt at the time, and they were in slavery basically. They even though they were legal residents there, they got there legally. The Egyptians had become paranoid that the Israelites were just increasing in population, and they just started to say, if we don't do something, if we don't enslave these people, they're going to overthrow us, they're going to take over our land. So basically they started to become taskmasters on the Israelites, and the Israelites had been crying to God. So at the end of it, in the Bible, they talked about how the Israelites at that point had been in Egypt for about 435 years. So it was a long time, like it was a generational thing. So there were generations at that point that never knew freedom, so to say. So God tells Moses that I want you to do this. I want you to go to Egypt and basically tell the Pharaoh to let my people go, like release my people. So Moses is like, how will the people even take me seriously? Like, how do I start to tell people at this point that I heard a voice in the bush? Like, how do I go about this? Who am I going to say sent me? And then God said, just tell them that I am that I am. And Moses is like, that is cool, like that is fascinating, that is wonderful. And then, but like, how would they believe me? So basically God told him, what do you have in your hand? And at the time Moses had a staff in his hand because that's what he does, he uses for like his work as a shepherd. So God told him to throw down the staff, and lo and behold, the staff turned into a snake. So he told him, and Moses ran because like you and I, he wasn't about to get beat by the snake. So he ran, and then God told him to come back, and he said, basically, just pick the snake by the tail. And when he picked it up, it turned back into a staff. And that just speaks to his faith, because honestly, if it were me, there's no way that a voice that I do not know is telling me to pick up a snake. At this point, I'm just going to say I'm hallucinating, and I'll just be on my merry way because I don't play those games. So he picks up the stick, and then the voice told him again to put his hand in his pocket, and he did. And when he brought it out, the hand was withered, like he had leprosy. The hand had become leprous. And when he put it back in his pocket, the hand like basically just became restored, and he had his health back. And he just told him that like, so you're going to do all of these signs when you get to Egypt, and if they still do not believe you, get water from the Nile and just pour it down, and like get water from the Nile, pour it down, it's going to turn to blood. And basically, so Moses, here comes self-doubt, right? After all of these things, at first, his complaint was, they're not going to believe me, like who am I going to say sent me? And now he just went about like, I'm not like the perfect person, like I'm, of everybody to send, I'm the least qualified. First of all, I stammer, and that's like not like good. I do not have the excellence of speech, like I do not have the confidence, basically. And it was just going on. And God is like, I made man. That's what God was basically telling him. Like, I give people voice. Like, I created people. Like, I create people. I created you. And I'm the one that make people hear, speak. So why would you think that this impediment, this thing that is not like qualified in your speech, why do you think that I cannot fix that? Because I already saw that, right? And I still chose you. But it was like, I mean, that's reassuring, but just send someone else. So God is like upset with him now, like, okay, I want to use you, because see, when God chooses you, he just chooses you, to be fair and to be truthful. So God is like, I know you're saying all of these things, so when you get to Egypt, you're going to link up with your brother Aaron. Is he Aaron or Aaron? Okay, I'm just going to stick with Aaron because I say Aaron. So stick that, link up to your brother Aaron, and I would like just, it will be your mouthpiece basically. So I'm going to tell you what to say. You tell it to Aaron, and he's going to tell it to the Pharaoh, since you really want us to be out here during this long process. So Moses goes to his father-in-law at the time, and he's like, okay, I have to go back to my people in Egypt, because like I said, he originally fled Egypt when he killed someone. So it's like, I have to go back to my people in Egypt with my family. I just want to go check up on their well-being, and I'll be back. So and something struck me when he went to his father-in-law and he was leaving. The Bible talks about how he packed his things, his family, his wife, and the Lord's staff. And it just struck me because at the beginning, the staff was not the Lord's staff, it was Moses' staff when like this thing started. But basically, I think it just emphasizes the fact that once you take something and you surrender it for the use of God, it becomes God's. Like once God does a sign and wonder or does something with what you've given him, it becomes for the Lord at that point. But I digress. So Moses went to, this is a technical part. So Moses went to Egypt, and when he got there, he met up with Aaron, and Aaron was like, "Oh, I had a revelation or like some kind of visit from God, and he told me all about what we're supposed to be doing." So the people, they gathered the people together, the elders of the land together, and they basically just said, "Oh, this is the plan. This is what God wants us to be doing. This is why we're gathered." Basically, like, this is the long and short of it. We're trying to secure your freedom, and God is going to do signs. And they did all of these signs in front of the people, that's the Israelites, and the Israelites were like just impressed, and we're like, "Oh, we're down for this. We appreciate this. Like, this will be like good. Like, save us." So after that, Moses and Aaron went to Aaron. I'm confused. Moses and Aaron went to the Pharaoh, and we're like, "Okay, so we're basically here." And this is the funny thing, right? So when we were talking to the Pharaoh, they did not even say that, "Oh, we want the people to be like free, or like we want you to release the people." They were just like, "Oh, we want you to let the people come and worship God in the wilderness for like 3 days." And Pharaoh was basically like, "Sorry, who's your God? And why should I care? Like, why should I care that you all want to go worship your God?" And it was like, "Please leave my office, respectfully." And so they left. And it was so funny because the minute they left, he called the taskmasters, and it was like, "I see the Israelites have so much time on their hands. Like, they're out here wanting to take some time to go worship." So it was like, "Okay, what you're going to do is make life harder for them." So before, the Israelites so they had different types of labor, and basically some of the Israelites were like brick makers, and they used to have like straws to make this brick, and it basically was just like, don't give them no more straws, let them gather their own straws and still make the same amount of bricks. And so the Israelites came back, and they came back to Pharaoh, like, why the change in policy? And he basically told them, "You don't have too much time on your hands. I hear y'all are out here wanting to go worship your God or whatever, so no more free time," basically. And then when the Israelites heard this, they were like, "Moses, this is all on you." And they were upset, obviously, and which is understandable, because it's like, I mean, we were struggling, but we were kind of fine, and now you've come with these dreams and selling us this idea of freedom, and you've just made our life harder. So when that happened, Moses cried out to God, like, "Okay, I don't want to be the bad guy here, but this is not cool. Like, you cannot put me in a situation where I'm giving people dreams and then the opposite is happening." So God told him, "Okay, go to the Pharaoh tomorrow, and while he's by the river Nile, the popular river Nile, and basically tell him to let my people go. If he doesn't, strike the Nile and just turn the water to blood." And this is where the drama begins. So he goes to Pharaoh as expected, and he's like, "Okay, I'm back again, let the people go." "Oh, yo, I'm sorry, I forgot a part." So the first time he went to go meet Pharaoh, and he was like, "Oh, let my people go, yada yada yada," he was like, he dropped his staff, he turned into a snake. Well, Aaron had to do that part, because like I said, Moses was the one speaking and Aaron was the one doing the doing. So Aaron did that part, and he dropped the staff and he turned to a snake. And then the king was like, "Okay, bring out my magicians. Let's show these people that we have some sauce." So they brought out their own magicians, and they also dropped their staff, and their staffs also turned to snake. So it's like, there's nothing you can do that we can't do. But then the gag was, the snake from Aaron swallowed the snakes from the magicians, and then after that they were like, "We can do all the, like, what is this power you think you possess?" And that was the first time it was like, "Please leave my office respectfully," and it doubled their task. So back to the Nile. So Aaron and Moses went to the king when it was by the Nile, and they were like, "Oh, let the people go." He said no. So they struck the Nile, and the water in the Nile turned to blood. And then the Pharaoh was like, "Cool, but you know my magicians can do that, right?" So his magicians came, and they also turned water to blood. It was like, let me tell you, the devil the Yoruba people say Ishulagwara Kunigwala. The devil also has power. So like it's very important that you know the God you serve and you're just not moved by things. That's why I don't run to miracle centers to like I don't run to churches where it's like healing, 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 except you test the quality of the word they are preaching, because all of these things, the devil can do some of those things. So as I was saying, they also made water turn to blood, but basically there was no water to drink in, like there was no drinking water in the land. But Pharaoh was like unbothered, so they just dug like wells around the Nile, like a different source of water, and they just kept it moving, basically. So it was like, okay, the Nile has turned to blood, we'll just do another source. So that happened, and then after that happened, they're like, okay, it's like this is, and the thing is, okay, should I say this now? So the water turned to blood, and it was like, okay. And after that, it still didn't let the people go, because let me say it right now. Pharaoh had coconut head. Like in this story, you will get aggravated at how hard-hearted it was. So for non-Nigerians, having coconut head just means you're hard-headed, basically. So it's like you're stubborn. So I think I'm going to say coconut head a lot, because he had coconut head. So Pharaoh didn't let the people go, obviously. So after that, the next plague came. Frogs. Because he didn't let the people go, frogs came out of the Nile. Like God through Moses caused frogs to come out of the Nile. So the entire Nile turned into frogs, and there was frogs everywhere. Like in the city, the frogs literally filled the entire city, like frogs everywhere. But Pharaoh's magicians also could do that. And he was like, I'm not gonna let them go just because of a little frog infestation. It's not a big deal. It's just frogs. After that came the gnats. I call it gnats or gnats. I think it's gnats. Gnats. You know what? Should I check? Gnats. You know those things? They're like, I think they're like fruit flies. It was everywhere, on people's bodies, on livestock, everywhere. But I think Pharaoh was kind of like a mad king, because why would you watch your people suffering and just do nothing? So he still didn't do it. He didn't let them go, because he was like, we'll be alright. It's just a little inconvenience. After that, the Israelites are like, the Moses and Aaron were like, let the people go, they just want to go worship. He said no. And guess what came next? Flies. Like there was flies all over the land. And I feel like I would have lost to the flies, because I remember from my childhood just eating mangoes and that annoying noise, that sound. That's why I don't like mangoes. Like I don't eat mangoes in public for that very reason. Like it's when flies come and they're like zzz. So there were flies everywhere. Like I still did not let them go, because that's what he is, a man with coconut head. So after this, and it's so funny because every time something's about to happen, Moses and Aaron will go to him and be like, if you don't let the Israelites go do this thing that their God requires of them, this and this is going to happen. But he was like, not gonna happen. So after the flies was the death of livestock. So basically, the livestock of the Egyptians died. Like livestock, we're talking cattle, horses, livestock basically, it died. And so, I think it's important to note that sometimes when these things would happen, for example, when the flies infestation happened, in that moment, Pharaoh will be like, oh, go get me Moses. And then they'll call Moses and he'll come and he'll be like, I'm so sorry, like this is so bad. Please let us just get some relief. I'll make sure y'all go tomorrow. Like y'all will be out of here and everything. And then when Moses prays to God and the infestation leaves and it's time for him to like uphold his end of the bargain, he's always like, just kidding, no. And it's interesting because I remember that I actually made a note in my Bible about how like the similarities between me, this is just me now, and the Pharaoh sometimes, like, it's easy to just look at him and be like, why is he so stubborn, why is he so crazy? But like, it's so easy to also see that that's how we can be when we're in like trouble sometimes. It's like, in our desperation, you call on God, you start to like, you find time to do your devotion, you start to find time for God. But once you get relief, or once your prayer is answered, or you just like, once you're in a good place, you change your mind and you just, I don't know, break your promise to God, basically. So the livestock died, and this is when the people were like, okay, like, what's going on, Pharaoh? This is the Egyptians now. They're like, you have to do something. Like, these people are gonna kill us. Like, they're basically destroying us. But he was like, nope, not gonna do that. So after that, Moses put up sooth. So God told him to throw up like dust in the air and all of that. And when it came down, it turned into boils. So like, they had like boils on their bodies. Even animals had boils, and the boils were so bad to the point that the magicians could not even stand before Moses, because they had boils up onto the soles of their feet. Like, they were covered in boils. But like I said, you already know where this is going, because like I said, yep, he still didn't let him go, because coconut head. So after the boils, God told Moses to go tell him that, okay, if you don't let my people go this time, I'm going to cause hail to come down on the field. So it's like, and anybody, any livestock, anything in the field, when the hail comes down, is going to die. So when he said this, like, you know how some people that took him seriously, so this is now common knowledge, it's the whole village affected, right? So some of like Pharaoh's servants that were like, that have been listening to these things and seeing these things happen, they took it seriously, and they recalled in their lives, their animals, whatever it is they had that was in the field, their servants. They were like, okay, y'all come into the house, it's gonna go down. But some people didn't take it seriously and inhaled. And let me tell you, because I feel like God is great, and I liked the dramatic effect of hail, because honestly, it's just like a end of like the world movie. What is the end of the world movie without a little sky dramatics? That's what it was, because it was hailing and there was fire, like fire and lightning in the hail. The theatrics of it all. And it hailed, and like, people died, livestock died, animals died, and it was just like the whole shebang. And this mad king still didn't let the people go. He was like, okay, that's a little bit too dramatic, don't you think, Moses? Please beg your God, so just like, let us be, and we will do better. And then Moses prayed, and the hail stopped, and he was still doing basically what he was doing. So after this came the locusts, and there was like a huge locust that filled everywhere, and the locust was so heavy, the presence of the locust was so heavy that it made everywhere dark. Like, it was that like concentrated, that's basically the word I wanted to use. It was that concentrated that everywhere became dark, and the locusts were everywhere. They ate up everything. You know how locusts can be. I don't even know how locusts can be, but locusts, they were everywhere. They basically ate everything green, every plant, every single thing. And that's the thing, like, that's why the people were like, you have to do something, because like, they are destroying our economy at this point. Like, is the free labor really worth it? That's what I was asking myself. So you're trying to hold these people and not let them go, because okay, you're getting this cheap labor, this free labor from them, but is it really worth it? Because now you don't even have where are the fields to even plow. Like, everything is gone, and he wasn't having it. So after that, this is the 8th plague now. After that came darkness. Like, there was darkness everywhere, like darkness, like pitch darkness everywhere. And the Mad King, the Mad King still wasn't having it. It was just like, okay, whatever. So after the darkness, God gave instructions to the Israelites, like, okay, so your freedom is coming. Like, enough of this drama. Like, your freedom is coming, and so I want you to like go to your neighbors, borrow things tell them to lend you their gold, tell them to lend you their silver, like, and God caused them to like find favor before the Egyptians, basically. So they gave it to them of free will. It was like, borrow things from them because you're leaving, and you're leaving with everything that you borrowed, basically. So they went, they borrowed things, and they said they were going to have the feast of the Passover, basically. So God told them that they should kill like a lamb. So there's like a really long list of like the things they had to do for the Passover, but I'm not going to go into that detail, but because it's very long, it's like 2 chapters long. But basically, the crux of it was they had to kill lamb and put the blood of the lamb on their lamppost, basically. So anybody inside the house, when the next agent of destruction was coming by, would be safe. And it's also important to mention that all of these things that were happening to the Egyptians, the Israelites had no part in it. Like, they were good, they were fine, basically. And I was just wondering, like, could it have been possible for the Israelites to actually like house Egyptians in the middle of all this, I don't want to call it pandemic, plagues? Could they have like been like, oh, this is my really good friend, come stay in my house? Like, I don't know how that works, but it just, so basically it was like, borrow things, like get things from these people, just I'm gonna get you favor. And he said, kill the lamb, put the blood on your lamp, on your doorpost, because that's the only way I'm going to like pass over your household, right? So they did this, and guess what happened? In the middle of the night, that night, the agent of death passed, and every firstborn child in the household of the Egyptians died. Like, not just including the king, but not just him. It's like the council, the people. And that's the thing sometimes about how the policies that people even have no control over, right? You have even slaves that were not Egyptians, they also lost their firstborn. So every child, it says, the Bible says, from the king to the servant and the male, the firstborn child of all of them died. And it says that there was a cry of like great agony in the land. Like, there was mourning. You can imagine every household losing a child at the exact same time. So it was like great tears, like everybody was in tears and they were screaming. And at that point, Pharaoh was just like, you all need to leave, like pack your bags, start to leave right this moment, because he just started to panic. They really thought they were going to get destroyed that night, and they were just like, pack your things. Like, people were not even, like, they said people had breads that had not risen, that they not put yeast in, and they left with everything they borrowed from their neighbors. They left. So when they left Egypt, because God is good, they were led by God. So there was a shorter way to pass through, but it was going to like take them through another enemy's camp and whatnot, and God just didn't want them to deal with that, because it was like, if the Israelites just encounter drama, they can decide to go back to Egypt. So God took them through the way of the Red Sea, and he was like basically leading them. So at no point on this journey did God leave them alone. That's what the Bible says. It says it was leading them by a pillar of cloud during the day and a pillar of fire at night. So they were never alone on this journey. So they were being led, and then they had already left. But you see, the mad king, guess who decided to come after them again? Yes, exactly, him. He picked his army, chariot. At this point, I don't know if it is so much so anger about the fact that they just lost so many people and now they just want to inflict pain. But they decided, in all of their infinite wisdom, to chase down the Israelites, which I think in itself was just a very terrible idea, because at this point you already know that the Israelites are not the ones fighting their own battles. Like, they have a superior power fighting for them. So what was the point of chasing them down? A power that could strike down your children without you seeing them. Like, it didn't have to physically come into your space to kill your kids. Like, when it was healing, like, nobody had to physically lift their fingers. The Israelites did not have to lift one finger to destroy you, but somehow he thought it was a good idea to chase them down. And it just talks to the quality of king that he was, honestly, because not only are you making, these are your soldiers, these people also lost family, so it's not just you at this point. Yeah, making people that also suffered a loss go after, like, I don't know the rationale, but best believe they chased down the Israelites. So as the Israelites were going now, they decided to chase them down, and this was the point where the Israelites had just gotten to the Red Sea. So at this point it was like the Red Sea was in front of them, the Israelites were in the middle, and the Egyptians were behind them. And so, true to Israelite style, they started to complain like, oh my goodness, like, Moses, why did you bring us out here? You want us to die out here? Is it because we don't have graves in Egypt? We preferred, like, would rather be walking the field right now than dying in this wilderness, basically. Like, and it just even, I'm just like, did you not see all the things God did? Like, did God not bring you this far? Why are you being so dramatic? You're here at this moment not because of any special power you have. So why are you now going on and on about what's it called? Why are you going on and on about them bringing you here to destroy you? Like, do you not trust in God? Well, I guess it's just a human reaction, honestly, because they started to panic. And when they started to panic, Moses called to God, and God was like, why are you calling me? At this point, I've equipped you. Like, just do the needful. So Moses stretched his hand over the Red Sea, and lo and below, I can't hear to say lo. This is something I used to say jokingly, and now I started to say, but the Lord made a way. He made a way. Okay, basically, the Lord became a Julius Berger, and he made a way right in the middle of the ocean. Like, the Red Sea parted, and the Israelites basically had like free way to walk by. It was a miracle. So in this time, the Israelites start to like walk by the Red Sea, and the Lord already told them to pick up stones, like just remembrance of this great thing that the Lord has done for them, right? So they walked through unscathed, and true to their coconut head style, just true to their coconut nature, guess who decides? Guess what people decide that maybe it's a good idea to actually follow the Israelites into the sea that you do not even know how it came about. Like, you saw they made a road in the middle of the sea, and you decided to follow them. Do you not think, like, do you not even reason for once that maybe the people that made this road can actually close it? But anyway, they decided to follow because, like I said, coconut head was a big factor here. And they walked into the Red Sea with the Israelites. And let's not forget that, you know, the Israelites started this journey before the Egyptians decided to chase them. So they kind of already had like a head start. So they kind of were like way ahead of them. And right in the middle of it, to make matters worse, God caused the chariots of like the Israelites to start to like buckle in the middle of the sea. So it slowed them down. And at that point, we were like, okay, maybe we should go back because God is fighting these people's battle. I'm like, oh, what a time to actually realize. So they decided that, oh, let's go back because God is fighting the Israelites' battle. And guess what? At that point, it was too late because the Israelites had already reached the other side, and Moses closed the parted Red Sea. And guess what happened? Yeah, you guessed right. The Egyptians along with their chariots, their horses, all of them perished. And I'm just like, what was the reason? Because I don't know, what was the reason? If you're going to put yourself in this situation now where now your wives, because you know, like the chariots, the horsemen, all of them, they were men, and they were in the ocean. So now you have these women back home, not just mourning the death of their children, now they're also mourning the death of their husbands because of the coconut head of a king. And this is why I cannot join the army, because I honestly do not have a penchant for dying because of somebody's I don't know, whims. I don't know what to call it, but like, I just don't have a penchant for dying for other people's drama. Sorry, hold on a sec. Like, I did not have a penchant for dying. For other people drama, like, why are we dying? First of all, this whole conversation was not even between you people. So why are they? Anyways, that's the story of how God brought out the Israelites from Egypt. My makeup is done. Thank you very much. But before you leave, first of all, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share. But before you actually leave, I actually wanted to, I had like a few tidbits I wanted to share. So you might be wondering that, Doing, what should I take away from this story? What should the moral lesson of this story be for you? I think the first thing is just sensitivity to like the spirit of God, just like Moses was. Like when he walked by my makeup is actually not done. When he walked by the burning bush, and just sensitivity to like what God is doing around you, like how ways that God is like trying to get your attention and speak. So I'm just saying, like, in this new year, it will be a good idea to actually be more sensitive to how God is trying to get our attention and how God is trying to speak to us, right? Like, it will be a good idea to actually be more sensitive about that. And also, like, in the new year, not to let self-doubt like weigh us down or in that what God is trying to do in our lives. We saw with Moses how God already saw Moses, and that's the good thing about God, right? He knows you more than you know yourself. Like, he knows what you're capable of, and he usually, like, he can see your faults. Like, from the minute he called Moses, he actually told Moses that, oh, Pharaoh is not going to want to let them go, but I'm going, like, I have a plan, basically. And that's what it is. He already knew what Pharaoh was going to do. He knows what you're going to do. And if God is saying, I have chosen you, there's no reason why you should let self-doubt not let you do what God has called you to do. At the end of the day, God would have used Moses, despite his stutters, despite his inadequacies, to do what he wanted to do. But like, Moses was like, oh, I can't do it. And then, because God will do what God would do anyways, like the good team to be on is the team of God. I'm stuttering. I'm stuttering like Moses. It kind of ended well for Moses because God used Aaron as opposed to like just discarding him. God kind of gave him someone to help. But that doesn't always happen for everybody, and it's just always a good idea that when you're called, to always yield to the call and to know that God will be there for you. And another thing I wanted to say, just in the God will be there for you space, is that no matter how tough it gets, no matter how crazy it gets in 2021, just always remember that God is in the moment with you. Look at how God orchestrated the release of the Israelites, right? While they were still in Egypt, walking, slaving away, God was already on the other side of town with Moses, making plans for them. So even before even before the Israelites could physically see the manifestation of these results, God was already making these plans. Like, God was already orchestrating their salvation, and like God sees like the things you're going through and is working on it. That's just what I wanted you to know. And he's always there. Like, he's always there when they came out of Egypt, even in those times when it was like, oh, now we're free, freedom, they're rejoicing, and then all of a sudden there's a Red Sea, and it's like, oh, I thought I was getting a break, I thought like this is it. Just remember that God is always there. God was there by a pillar of cloud. God was there by a pillar of fire. It will not leave you. It might feel like this is too much for me, but always just remember that God is with you. And the last one is that God has a plan. He has a plan. Look at him already orchestrating this thing from the beginning, like telling Moses, you drop your sword when you get there. Like, as a sword, I'm sorry, you drop your staff when you get there. Like, God already knows like what the stumbling block will be, and he has a plan, basically. So if there's anything you're taking away from this video, just know that, one, God will be with you, and God has a plan, and he sees you. That's it. God sees you, God has a plan, and he's with you. Thank you so much for stopping by my video. I'm so excited that you stopped. And like, please don't forget to like, do not forget to comment, do not forget to share with your friends and family. I'm just gonna wear my earrings because good vibes only. This is the cherry on top of the story. And that God loves you and he cares about you. So thank you. Bye. See you guys next week, Monday.